Hello and welcome. In this episode, we will be taking a look at the ancient roots of the word Ouroboros and the ideology that allowed it to be universally revered even before the time of globalization. The cryptic symbol of the Ouroboros is depicted as a serpent or, on occasion, a dragon, with its tail caught in its mouth. The image serves as a representation of the passing of time as a reference to the cyclical nature of destruction and rebirth. What is fascinating about this allegory is that not only its sentiment, but its visual interpretation has spanned time and earth over the millennia of human records, from ancient Egypt to alchemical texts of Eurasia, all the way to the Americas and across multiple religions. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, so let's go back to the origins. Although the word Ouroboros is Greek, and the image does show up in certain esoteric Greek texts, it is not thought to have originated there. One of the oldest depictions was found in the enigmatic Book of the Netherworld, which is a funerary text of ancient Egypt, found in one of the chambers of the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun in the 14th century BCE. The Book of the Netherworld refers to the journey that the sun god Ra took through the underworld known as Duat each night, and his unification with the god of the underworld, Osiris. The image in the book is of a figure that has two Ouroboros, one surrounding the head and chest, and the other surrounding the feet, which is thought to represent the unification of Ra-Osiris. The depiction of these serpents is believed to be the manifestation of the god Mehen, who is said to have coiled itself protectively around the sun god Ra during his journey through the Duat each night. As mentioned above, what's interesting about the Ouroboros is that its iconography can be found in many cultures across the ancient world, including those in Asia, Africa, Europe, and even the Americas. But despite the distance between these cultures, the symbolism of the Ouroboros is fairly consistent. It is commonly understood as a symbol of life, death, creation through destruction, and the cyclical nature of time. This concept resonates especially well with the ancient Egyptian perception of time as being circular as opposed to linear, since they marked the passing of time by the daily cycle of the sun's journey through the sky, as well as the flow of water in the annual flooding of the Nile, which renewed the fertility of the earth. The cyclical nature of the rising and falling of the river's water levels is what led the Egyptians to create a timescale in order to chart these events, which later evolved into a year as we know it. However, true to their specific perspective of time, they counted years according to Pharaoh's reign, each ascending to the throne at year 1. This is because they did not track time by annual increments, but rather by major social events. In other words, events dictated time. Time did not dictate events. Instead of, the flowers are blooming because it is spring, it was thought of as, it is spring because the flowers are blooming. Even with this somewhat fluid perception of time, it was the ancient Egyptians who devised the 365-day calendar, which would be very familiar to us today. From that point, the Egyptians worked backward, splitting a year into 12 smaller increments of 30 days, which were divided into 3 seasons, each lasting 4 months. These were known as Akhet, or time of inundation, when the Nile would flood, replenishing the soil with nutrients which supported local agriculture. Paret, or sowing time, during which the floodwaters receded, allowing farmers to plant and grow necessary crops. And Shimu, or harvest time, when the farmers would harvest their crops. Time was broken down further into hours, with each day consisting of a total of 24, 12 in the light and 12 in the dark. So it seems fitting that the enigmatic Book of the Netherworld would feature iconography relating to the Ouroboros, as it focuses on explaining this universally understood cycle of death and rebirth that constitutes each day. But the Ouroboros has many incarnations. In Norse mythology, Jormungandr, also known as the Midgard serpent, is said to have been thrown in the ocean by the god Odin, where it grew so large it was able to encircle the earth and grasp its own tail in its mouth. This actually plays into the bound monster trope that is common in Norse mythology. This motif features a monster who functions as an enemy of the gods, who is either bound or restrained in some way, but is destined to break free during Ragnarok, an apocalyptic destruction of the world, after which it will rise again from the ashes, or more specifically the sea, fertile, renewed, purified, and ready to begin again. As a reference, Jormungandr's brother Fenrir the Wolf and sister Hel, Queen of the Underworld, are other examples of bound monsters. It seems significant to mention that the world serpent, Jormungandr, releasing its tail from its mouth, functions as a catalyst for the onset of the destruction and renewal that comes from Ragnarok. A parallel can be drawn between Jormungandr and the biblical sea monster known as Leviathan. Similarly to Jormungandr's eventual death at the hands of Thor, leading to the world ending and beginning again, Leviathan is destined to be slain by God and cast into the abyss, resulting in a new world of peace, free of evil. The Leviathan, in general, is thought of as a sea serpent, a dragon, or even a crocodile, but in a certain sect of Gnosticism, it is specifically depicted as an Ouroboros. In the theology of this sect, the Leviathan is thought to envelop the earth, separating it from the realm of God. Gnosticism believes the opposing ends of the Ouroboros represent the divine and earthly aspects of man, which are unified in spite of the disparity between the two, an ideology similar to the concept of yin and yang in Chinese philosophy. This perception is thought to be echoed further in an early alchemical text called the Chrysopia of Cleopatra, where the Ouroboros is depicted as half black and half white, encircling the Greek words hentopan, meaning the all is one. But elsewhere on the same papyrus, the full maxim is brought to light, stating, "All is one, and by it all, and for it all, and if it does not contain all, then all is nothing." What this sentiment is thought to refer to is the unity of the cosmos and everything in it. The universe makes up all matter, and therefore all matter is related, which would indicate that with the correct manipulation of matter, transmutation, i.e., the turning of lead to gold, would be possible given the proper manipulations, a concept which is a pillar of alchemical study. The serpent depicted on this papyrus is one of the oldest images of the Ouroboros to be associated with alchemy's magnum opus of the Philosopher's Stone, which of course is the legendary substance believed to be able to turn base metals into gold, as mentioned, but also thought to be able to turn dead to living, therefore achieving immortality. In some interpretations, the aim of discovering the Philosopher's Stone is to break from the cyclical nature of time, represented by the Ouroboros, which parallels the goal of breaking the cycle of samsara, the concept of reincarnation in Eastern religions such as Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism. In fact, Hinduism has its own depiction of the Ouroboros, Asuti, which is thought to encapsulate the world, in addition to being one of the foundational pillars on which Earth sits. A South American interpretation comes in the form of an anaconda, which envelops the Earth, and further north there are the occasional images of the god Quetzalcoatl, illustrated as an Ouroboros as well. There is even a rendering of the serpent in the Book of Kells, a collection of Gospels written in Latin, and originating from somewhere in the British Isles around 800 CE. Interestingly, there are instances in nature of live snakes actually eating their own tails. There are a couple of reasons why this is thought to happen. One being that they may mistake the rapid movements of their tails for prey, and the other is related to a disorientation that can come over them if their body temperature climbs too high due to their environment, which can drive them to eat absolutely anything they can find. Without intervention, this consumption usually leads to their own death, so it may be that this symbol originated from actually witnessing a snake devouring itself in nature. Although there is a tremendous amount of depth to the symbolism of the Ouroboros, the etymology of the word is quite literal. The Ouroboros is a compound of two ancient Greek words, the first being ora, meaning tail. This is thought to be derived from the Proto-Indo-European hers, to follow, presumably interpreted as to follow behind something, as a tail would. Alternatively, it could come from a different PIE word, hersos, meaning backside or buttocks. The second aspect of this word is boros, meaning devouring. Boros is a descendant of the word librosko, which translates to I eat or eat up. This term comes from the Proto-Hellenic guaigrosko, which traces back to the PIE guaigrosketi, a term that can be broken down in two parts. Guerch, a word that means to swallow, devour, or eat, and sketi, which is a suffix that denotes a verb as being durative or of a continuing action over a significant duration of time, or iterative, as in of multiple iterations or repetitions to achieve a desired outcome. So, we come back to the concept of time as a cycle, the continuous destruction and renewal, the death and rebirth and balance that the Ouroboros has come to symbolize across a wide range of cultures the world over. Thank you so much for listening all the way through if you did. Please leave a like if you would like to hear more episodes. Also feel free to leave a comment if there are any other words you would like to see covered in the future.